Hello. It is an honor and a pleasure to welcome you to the inaugural Skin in the Game Award. Thank you for being here for this extraordinary night for Intact America and the intactivist movement. My son was a teenager when I shared my circumcision story with the movement's leader-in-chief and my dear friend, Georgianne Chapin. Georgianne and I met as colleagues in the community health center movement. I was 8 months pregnant when I witnessed the circumcision of a baby boy. I was absolutely horrified and traumatized by the baby's screams and the brutality of the procedure. Later, when describing what I had seen to other young moms, many of them agreed, no way, I am absolutely not circumcising my baby if it's a boy. Unfortunately, I began to hear stories from new mothers who had been pressured in the hospital into signing consent forms and regretted they had done that. When I brought the issue up to some friends and even family members, some of them pushed back. Thankfully, my husband was supportive. I asked my pediatrician, how do you feel about it? He told me the American Academy of Pediatrics does not recommend it, thankfully. Though my mind was made up, I still was nervous, knowing that baby boys were being injured every single day by doctors who had pledged to do no harm. When my son was born, I placed a 3x5 card in his bassinet. It said, do not circumcise. I never discussed this with my son until he was married. And his wife, she's in the corner over there, has since thanked me. Carol's family is from Brazil, where baby boys remain intact at birth. Unfortunately, though, too many people in the United States consider ending circumcision to be a tough issue. I've dedicated my career to creating high-quality, community-based healthcare, which is extraordinarily challenging in these difficult times. For-profit medicine is the medical industrial complex. Even though no medical organization in the world recommends universal circumcision, every year in the United States, more than 1 million baby boys, more than 3,000 every day, lose their foreskins, generating more than $5 billion for the healthcare system at the expense of parents, taxpayers, and of course, those men who unfortunately have had the trauma and the suffering. To me, infant circumcision in America epitomizes healthcare gone awry. The issue sits at the intersection of for-profit healthcare, human rights, sexual and reproductive freedom, and healing intergenerational trauma. Thankfully, we have Intact America and the intactivist movement standing for freedom, sex positivity, bodily autonomy, and whole, healthy families. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight to celebrate nearly 2 decades of our work and our unwavering ally, Alan Cumming. Now, I'm going to pass the mic to my powerhouse friend, Georgianne Chapin.
Welcome to the inaugural Skin in the Game Award Ceremony. Thanks again for all the support over the years for Intact America and for coming to celebrate the exceptional contribution of Alan Cumming to the movement against male circumcision. I first met Alan in, we think, 2008 or 2009, when I was just starting Intact America. Alan's voice has been clear and continues to be uncompromising on the issue of male circumcision. His recent show, Uncut, is a disarming but serious call for allowing boys and men to keep their natural genitalia, their foreskins. Lest this sound too abstract, At this moment, just 130 blocks north of us, at New York Presbyterian's Pediatric Intensive Care Unit, a 1-month-old baby named Cole Groth lies near death. A week ago, at 10 p.m. the night before Cole was to be sent home from the intensive care unit, his parents got a phone call from the hospital asking them if they wanted to proceed with the circumcision. The father said yes. At 11 p.m., Cole's foreskin was severed, and shortly afterward, he began to bleed. He bled through the night, losing most of his baby body's blood and suffering damage to his baby liver, his baby kidneys, his baby intestines, and his baby brain. There was nothing wrong with Cole's penis. He did not need to be circumcised. If Cole lives, he will be damaged and suffer for life, and so will everyone in his family. Skin in the Game, the photographic and storytelling project of Intact America that you are seeing here, came from a campaign conducted in 10 days of photographic shoots in Atlanta and Dallas, and collected stories from the subjects of the photos. Some of the participants in the photo shoot had already formed opinions about circumcision. Some had not. Many men confided they had sexual problems which they'd come to realize were probably attributable to the surgical removal of their foreskins when they were babies. Several of the women wept as they recalled how their peaceful baby boys had been returned to them, traumatized and unable to breastfeed, or with a jagged wound where their natural, perfect foreskin had been. Most of those who came to our photo shoot said they'd never spoken about the topic until that day. As the participants were photographed and then gathered around the table for a meal, their stories began to come out. We concluded everyone in this country has a circumcision story. Everyone has skin in the game. Circumcision cuts through us all, every single one of us in this room. Too many Americans are fearful that if they speak out, like Alan does, like I do, like Intact America does, like many of you, thankfully, in this room do, they will be ostracized. But no one who believes in our cause can afford to stay silent. Silence means 3,000 babies harmed every day. Silence means that some of those babies will even lose their lives, or like Cole, be left maimed and impaired for life. I'm asking every one of you in this room, if you haven't thought about this, if you haven't spoken out, please start. Tell parents that their baby boys, like their baby girls, are born perfect, and plead with them to keep their children the way God or nature made them. And for those of you who have been harmed or who are loved ones of men who have been harmed, please join me in thanking Alan Cumming for his outspoken and uncompromising advocacy, his passion and his compassion. Please commit to calling for an end to this mindless mutilation of our sons and to protecting future generations of boys and the men they will become. Now, I'd like to introduce you all to Alan Cumming. Alan, this faceted penis is the inaugural Skin in the Game Award. It's very heavy.
Okay.
And so don't drop it on my foot.
Right.
And thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Would you like me to hold it while you're speaking?
No, I can do it.
You got it?
Thank you, everybody. I was really curious about what this award would look like. It does not disappoint. I have a lot to say, so I'm going to try and be brief and try and be cogent. The reason I am here tonight is because I moved to this country in the late 90s and I was a very sexually active young gentleman, and I was so shocked every time I showed my penis to anyone that they gasped. It's not an unnice thing to happen when you show someone your penis, but it's because they had never seen a penis like mine. And I was like, what? And I realized that there was this huge problem in America about education and ignorance and about the foreskin. That most people didn't realize it was a problem because they didn't know there was another option because they'd never seen it. This is the days before kind of, we could all look at porn with 2 clicks on our phone. And even if you did look at porn in those days, it would probably be circumcised men, sorry. So people had no other option. And I thought, it's like this kind of secret that we're all, that we don't know about. And so I sort of took it as my mission to, I think ignorance is a really dangerous and pervasive thing. And it can breed terrible, terrible problems, as we're seeing in our country today. And so, I really do feel there's a great correlation between what's happening in our country today and the intactivist movement. Because what the intactivist movement is talking about is about being authentic, about being intact, about being your true self. And also, sadly, in this country, that means you are different. You are the other. You're the person who is not normal. Like I talk in my show, Uncut, about how I feel when I first came to America. I felt like a freak because everybody was gasping at my penis because they'd never seen anything like it. And so, and still actually, today I feel like a freak, but for other reasons. Now, I'll tell you. So, it's interesting. It's about being your authentic self in a way, because now I feel like I'm in show business. I feel like a freak now because I haven't had any plastic surgery or any of that stuff. And so now people gasp at the fact that I have wrinkles on my face when, a quarter of a century ago, they gasped at I had wrinkles on my penis. Well, I'll tell you a story. Like when it first happened, when I first came to this country and I realized that people had no idea, imagine coming somewhere and sort of feeling like you're in your 30s and you have to sort of educate your lovers about your genitalia. Women, you will know what this means because you do it all the time, I imagine. But I just felt like I've got to do something. And also, I then began to learn and realize that there's many more reasons why this was the problem in America. It had to do with obviously money, as most problems in America have to do with. The fact that there's traditions and religious reasons, but also just like the power of the medical industry in persuading people to do things that they don't want to do or don't need to do is a huge problem in this country. The sort of pill-popping culture we have, imagine that, after many layers comes to actually your foreskin and you're asked to do something to your child. And that's another point. I call circumcision what it is, genital mutilation. And I have, that was what has confused me as well. I'd taken part in various, contributed to funds against genital mutilation in Africa, against girls and things like that. What is the difference between that and a child at a couple of days old having its foreskin taken away? There's zero. It is genital mutilation on a mass scale, backed by the government, backed by the medical industry, and backed by the pharmaceutical industry. And it's just wrong. And also there's a reason we have a foreskin. It protects the most sensitive part of your body if you're a man. Also, I also believe in self-determination. And I believe in that as a sort of as a movement in itself, the self-determination that Scotland should be able to self-determine its own rights and its own policies as a country. But also I believe that women should be able to self-determine about their own bodies in this country. Trans people should be able to self-determine about their own bodies. And also men, if they want to have a circumcision later in their lives, they should be able to do that. I mean, you take all the advice you can get, but some people do that. And I think, good on you. You made a choice. Right. when you're a little child of a couple of days old and that happens to you, that is not self-determination. That is your parents being indoctrinated and making the decision, and there's no consent involved at all. That is genital mutilation on a mass scale. I want to thank everyone at Intact America for the great work they've done, because honestly, in the several decades that I've been speaking out about my foreskin, I have noticed, in terms of my, what's happening in America and my friends who are having children, that how it has changed. It's changing in a really positive way, where people are questioning whether or not they should do this to their children, and questioning those sort of awful tropes like, I want him to look like me. What does that mean? Is that an American tradition? Do you do that at Thanksgiving when you... Or my favorite, he'll be bullied in the locker rooms for being intact and authentic and not mutilated. What a terrible, terrible indictment of our culture that saying is. Great strides have been made, great changes. It's on an upward curve in terms of this education of people and this realization that this thing we've been so conditioned to believe is the truth is maybe not. I really do think we're on, and much of that is to do with the work of Intact America and other organizations, and I think it's a really great thing. Bravo. But in Britain, most, it's not such a big problem there. It's not a thing at all, nearly on the same scale, circumcision, as it is here. But there is, it does happen. And I first became involved. I talked about my experience in America, and a British organisation got in touch with me. They're called 15 Square now. They were called something else then, and it's about foreskin health and anti-circumcision, and it's education and everything. It's really great. It's sort of a British version of Intact America, and I was doing a play in London. I sort of said I would talk to them and become a part of their campaign, and I said I would be a patron. And so the 15 Square people came to meet me, and there were these sort of fuddy-duddy little doctors, little sort of, oh, Alan, we're terribly excited you're going to be a part of the whole programme. Thanks so much. It means such a lot to the whole. And I was kind of, fascinated by them, and because they have a thing about foreskin reclamation and all these things. It's pretty intense. And then they wrote me this letter, this very formal letter about my becoming a patron, and it's sort of, a kind of legally sort of binding sort of thing. And at the bottom of it, they said, thank you very much, Alan, and P.S., may the foreskin be with you. So I thank you all. I thank Intact America very much for this award. I do have skin in the game. I know you all do too. I think that we, right now, if we take this as a metaphor and an analogy, not this thing, but like the fact that we are all here tonight fighting against ignorance and fighting against people who are different and who are therefore scary because of their difference, then it's not such a big leap to realize that that's what's going on in our country right now. Anyone who is different, anyone who scares us, anyone who is the other is pilloried, is legislated against, and is the enemy. And so I assume, but I also thank all of you for continuing this fight against ignorance and against this vilification of the other. And I do think that in this country, circumcision is part of that fight. And I just want to say thank you, and also may the foreskin be with you.